Las Vegas Raiders had, well, quite the turnover this past season. And I would not, there's not a person on earth I'd rather have on today's ep than my boy Wasted. How you doing today, man?
Yo, I am tremendous, man. I'm in the land of the living, and anytime I get to rock out with my man, Bro to the Schmo, it is a terrific day. It is a splendiferous occasion, everyone.
See, it's always a good time, man. It's always a good time. I knew I was gonna have a good time, and I can't wait. Now, while we're doing this, hey, shoot out your channel. Let the people know where they could find you, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of things.
Hey, well, listen, I am down the dial on YouTube, Raider Nation Unlimited, featuring Wasted Talent Raiders. And you know, at Wasted Talent Raiders. You can find me on Twitter at Wasted Talent Raiders. You can find me on Instagram, Wasted Talent Raiders. And also coming soon to a podcast space near you. The audio pod will be jumping off on Apple, Spotify, and any place you listen to audio. Raider Nation Unlimited, featuring Wasted Talent. Let me tell you guys something. It's the best Raider content known to man.
All right, I'll try to include all the links in the description. There'll be some on the overlay, but 2024 Raiders, it was kind of, there was a lot of turmoil, right? And then this offseason kind of inspired some hope. And I've been asking all my guests in these, well, if you could put it in a word, a sentence, a syllable, what are the general vibes for Raiders fans right now?
I mean, there's a lot of hope. And it's not just misplaced hopium and, you know, just overly over fandom. It is really backed up by some solid moves, some stability. It's like a calmness in Raider Nation. For the first time in a really, really long time, we as a fan base are feeling that there's some adults in the room running the organization right now. We feel like we actually have a real shot because we have a head coach. We got a starting quarterback now. And you know what? It feels like something very familiar to older Raider fans. It feels like we're a real team right now. And I'm not saying that we weren't, but all of the turmoil and instability kind of has gone away with one fell swoop. Enter Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, right.
Tom Terrific comes in the building, brings in John Spytek and Pete Carroll, and voila magic. We're an NFL team that's looking to compete in the AFC West. Isn't it a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah. It's just a shame that the AFC West is starting to become like the new AFC North. That just everyone's good.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. But before we look to the future, let's reflect a little bit on the past. Raiders go 4-13 last season. It wasn't even like y'all were playing bad. Y'all were hurt. Y'all were banged up. Gardner Minshew went down. You had Aiden O'Connell go down, so there was no consistency at quarterback. The defense, you had a lot of guys on IR. Crosby goes to IR. Christian Wilkins. I think Marcus Epps ended up getting hurt like right at the beginning of the year. So you end up going 4-13. I think you axe Luke Getsy, which I kind of figured that wasn't going to work out. But you axe him at week 9, and then at the end of the year, you get rid of the GM, the coaching staff. Just what went right, what went wrong in 2024?
Well, you know what? I'm going to give you the bad news first. You know, what went wrong was the promotion of Antonio Pierce from interim coach to full-time head coach, you know, without really doing a real complete head coaching search. You know, I kind of feel like Mark Davis and the kind of got bullied into hiring Antonio Pierce based off of us not hiring Rich Bisaccia in the same similar scenario, you know, where, you know, he had a nice little run at the end of 2023, beat the Chiefs on Christmas, had some notable wins. Bringing in Gardner Minshew was also something that was, you know, proved to be abject failure. I mean, you know, bringing in Gardner Minshew to be a backup is one thing, but having him be your starter is a mistake, right? You know, especially when you don't have, you know, the protection and the weapons around a very, very pedestrian quarterback like Gardner Minshew. And also the instability, man. You know, they couldn't secure Cliff Kingsbury, a real offensive coordinator, you know, because if I was Cliff Kingsbury, I'm going to be honest with you, without Jaden Daniels being on the horizon for the Raiders and coming into having to coach Aiden O'Connell, and Gardner Minshew, he elected to go and coach a generational talent. And then we wound up, like you said previously, hiring and subsequently firing Luke Getsy. And then now we had to go back into football past and hire Scott Turner and Norv Turner. Scott Turner was already in the building, but Scott Turner running the offense it wasn't the greatest, right? And then you got to look at it from this prism also, man. Devontae Adams was a guy who was unhappy from the word go. He had been happy previous to that season, and we had to get rid of him. We wound up infinitely getting a 3rd round pick for him, but having that kind of energy in the locker room kind of unsettled the locker room. And there were rumors about him and Antonio Pierce bumping heads, and just lack of roster depth, man. I mean, we had some catastrophic injuries, man. Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby being hurt, Malcolm Kuntz. Yeah. I mean, and if you look at that, man, and then some of the roster decisions previous to any of that even happening, and also the approach from Tom Telesco. Now, like Tom Telesco, and this, I'm going to get into some of the things that went right. Tom Telesco did terrific in the draft. He drafted 2 cornerstone pieces in one draft, in Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers Johnson. But what he failed to do was to be as aggressive as he probably should have been to build his roster up, because in Tom Telesco's mind, he figured that this was his first year of many being the general manager of the Raiders, right? And he wasn't on the same timeline as Antonio Pierce. I mean, Antonio Pierce to Tom Telesco, probably was expendable. He was the GM. He had final cut. He didn't hire Antonio Pierce. So he didn't make any decisions based off of Antonio Pierce's well-being or shortcomings as a head coach. And then the fact that Antonio Pierce had never been a head coach on any level, having to go up 2 times a year against Andy Reid and Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton. In the AFC West, we have a master class of coaches, man. And Andy Reid is the dean of coaches in the National Football League, man. So it's just all the way around, man. It was an organizational disconnect, man, between the long-term vision of what Tom Telesco saw and what Antonio Pierce was trying to do. And what happens when you have chaos at the top of an organization, the foundation crumbles. And this is what we see now.
Yeah, well, I mean, shoot, we could go ahead and now take a look at your new foundation. It's Pete Carroll.
Yes, sir.
Dude, oh, man, I was so excited to see this because, he's not here for a long time, but he's here for a good time. And I think he's the perfect type of coach to get stability back to not just the roster, but the organization. And he also brings Chip Kelly, who's getting another shot in the NFL, which I'm pretty excited about because, well, I mean, it was a bit bumpy, his time with the Eagles, and I think he had a little stint with the Niners as well. But I think he's learned a lot because you could see definitely a lot of NFL elements in that Ohio State offense last season. So what do you think that means to the roster?
I mean, one, like Pete Carroll always says, compete, right? There's going to be competition up and down this roster. And what you have is a steady hand up at the top of the organization coaching his team. I'm not going to go into games and feel like we will be outcoached. This is a guy who has the resume of all resumes. And if I'm being honest, he probably has the second best resume next to Andy Reid in the division. He is an accomplished head coach at every single level. He's won everywhere he's been. And, having Chip Kelly being there, he's also a guy who has been one of the most innovative minds in football over the last 20 years. And one of the reasons why I'm very, very excited about Chip Kelly is because his Oregon days, a lot of spread offense, a lot of, passing, just, a lot of almost college concepts that kind of got to the pros, right? We saw a lot of that spread stuff, a lot of things that Chip Kelly did make his way into the National Football League. He came to the NFL. He had a cup of coffee as a coach, got fired, went back down, got humbled, went to UCLA, kind of recalibrated what he did. And what I love with what Chip Kelly is doing is he is bringing back regular smash mouth football. Ohio State, and even when he had Charbonnet and all those guys at UCLA, they ran the football. So now you're going to get an offense they're going to be able to play multiple different styles. It's not going to be this sight blindness where if our scheme doesn't work, we're not going to be able to adapt. Being a team that is a West Coast team, and it plays in good weather, you have to have a running game. You have to have, base offenses that can go back to old school football, ball control. I think Chip Kelly is the kind of offensive play caller that he is going to be a counterpuncher. He's going to take what he wants at times. And then other times he's going to have to play that style of football where he takes what the defense gives him. And that makes me really excited, man. Really, really excited.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, like, being able to retain Patrick Graham, I think is kind of huge. Because, I mean, that was one of the things that went right last year for the Raiders. I was looking at their EPA per play, at least when it comes to the defense. And they were 12th against the run, 15th against the pass. And when you consider some of the injuries and everything going on, especially with how unstable the offense was, he's done a hell of a good job. Like, I think he's one of the more underrated defensive minds in the NFL.
Well, people say that, and I know I might get some pushback to my Raider brethren when you guys are watching this, but to be honest with you, I think the jury's still out on Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham has always had one good year and two, middle of the road years. I mean, he's a guy that, he makes chicken salad, out of chicken shit, excuse my language. He's done that several times, right? But if I'm being honest, how many times can, a Patrick Graham defense, get run on and leave the middle of the field open? There are a lot of holes in his defense, and the thing about Patrick Graham is I think he's a very good defensive coordinator. But what I'm excited about is that Pete Carroll is an elite defensive mind and has had elite defenses under his belt. Patrick Graham has not ever had an elite defense, like truly elite. There are certain defensive coordinators in this league that have had, and listen, I know people could talk about talent, but I'm going back to his time with Miami. I'm going back to his time, being with New England, even though he wasn't the defensive coordinator. And I'm going back to his time with the New York Giants. Wherever Patrick Graham is, they're always serviceable, but it's never elite. I want to see that elite Patrick Graham defense before I say that that's a plus move by keeping him. And having a guy like Pete Carroll to kind of, fine tune what he does and kind of fix some of the deficiencies of what he does, I think is gonna vote well for Patrick Graham. I think Patrick Graham is a guy that's on a short list of people who are in line to get a head coaching job the next hiring cycle. Yeah,
I typically agree with that. So let's talk about some of the losses, because there was some turnover when it comes to the actual roster. Mm-hmm. And not particularly on the offense. I mean, okay, Andre James, you didn't love him anyway. Yeah. Jackson Powers-Johnson.
That was an upgrade, right? That was addition by subtraction, right? But then when you start talking about some of the people that we lost, at the top of the list is Robert Spillane, right? Yep. Now, Robert Spillane was terrific for us. He's one of the best linebackers, to come into the Raider organization in quite a while, right? That's always kind of been a hole on this defense. And Robert Spillane showed up and showed out. But the thing is, Robert Spillane got paid like he was Roquan Smith by the New England Patriots. And the Raiders had to do what they had to do. And I salute John Spytek for doing that. I salute John Spytek for allowing Nate Hobbs to seek another offer. I salute John Spytek for allowing, Marcus Epps to walk. Because, and Trayvon Merrick as well, going to Carolina. Trayvon Merrick is getting paid as a top 6 player at his position. And he's not giving you that level of production. The contracts don't match the level of production on the field. And I have no problem with what the Raiders have done. The one thing that I've noticed about Pete Carroll and John Spytek and all of the roster moves, and I don't know if I'm jumping the line a little bit, but what I've noticed about them is that they are very, very, very into your ability is your availability. Players that play, a lot of the guys that they drafted out of college play some of the most snaps in college football. These guys are battle tested. And what I've noticed is guys that have been injury prone and, been wishy-washy and up and down a little bit, such as a guy like Nate Hobbs, who only played probably 63% of the games that he's actually been in the league for. They were allowing guys like that to walk. Of course they have to sign Max Crosby, because Max Crosby is the first time he's missing any significant time. But even with Colton Miller, he's still kind of twisted in the wind a little bit. He's on the last year of his deal, and the Raiders are taking a wait-and-see attitude because the first 4 games of the season, he was still feeling remnants of that shoulder injury. He did not play well. So I love the approach that they're taking. They are prioritizing players that are available, players that play a lot of snaps, and players that are interchangeable, players that are versatile, players that you can line up all over the field. And also I noticed a level of physicality that they enjoy in the people that they've brought in. You know what I mean? Most of these guys, Jeremy Chinn's a big hitter, physical guy. Landon Roberts, all of these guys that they're bringing in, these guys are physical thumpers, man. And I love what Pete Carroll and John Spytek has brought to the building, man. I'm loving it.
So I have a question now. So Christian Wilkins, someone who was brought in from the prior regime.
Yes.
He's been a little banged up. Do you think maybe then you go into this year with Wilkins, and could there be maybe maybe this is a guy we got to move on from?
I think it remains to be seen. I think, because the Raiders put Christian Wilkins on the pup list, right? So that means the first 4 games of the season, he will be watching for the most part, and he has to come back before that 4th game of the season. Now, yesterday, on social media, he was in the Raiders, weight room dancing around with Crocs on, and he looked like he's almost there. He doesn't have a boot on, and this is the thing, man. I think with a healthy Christian Wilkins, this is a top 4 unit. So I don't think the Raiders are going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that's another reason why I love the approach of Spytek and Pete Carroll. It is not like in previous regimes and I'm going to go all the way back to Gruden, right? John Gruden came in and he had this kind of way about him where he was going to build this roster, and if they didn't fit into what he thought he wanted to do, no matter how good the player was, instead of him walking in here and assessing the roster and saying, okay, this guy's good, let me try to build around him. Gruden went out and got his quote unquote guys. And I think that's a mistake when you take over a new organization. What I've noticed from Carroll and Spytek is that they came in here, and before they went out to go food shopping, they wouldn't assess what was in the pantry, what was in the garage, what's in the refrigerator, what's in all the cabinets. And they're like, wait a minute, we already got egg noodles, we already got soup, we got this, we got that. All we need is this, this, and that. And at this point, they're essentially just plugging voids in the team. So, I think Christian Wilkins, if he comes back and he plays the lion's share of the season, I think Christian Wilkins, if he can play to the back of his baseball card, will be a guy that you're going to definitely see on this team. But be mindful, if he's out 80% of the season, next year, there's a way that the Raiders can get out of that contract post June 1st. And I think that's what you'll most likely see if he doesn't. I think this is a very crucial season for him and a couple other guys on this roster.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up after you were talking about prioritizing availability. And I was like, okay. Interesting. So the defense did lose a lot of significant snaps, but as you said, can't always pay those guys the money they're getting offered out there. So for the guys you did bring in, do you have any favorite pickups, acquisitions?
Oh, man. I mean, where do I start? I'm going to be honest with you. Look, Landon Roberts, Jermaine Pratt, all these guys, listen, I love that Pete Carroll is going out there and bringing in linebackers, real linebacker stumpers. Devin White. The Devin White move is a very underrated move. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Devin White's been trashed the last 2 years. What are you talking about? Wasted. He's also had a foot injury. And this is a guy that was a former all-pro guy. This is a guy who was a leader of the Tampa Bay defense that went and won a Super Bowl and beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Devin White is only 27 years old. And they got him for a half-eaten sandwich and a grape soda. I mean, that was a terrific move. I mean, look, when I start looking at the Jeremy Chinn move, Jeremy Chinn is highly underrated and severely underpaid for the level of production that he had in Washington, man. And the guy's young, he's a thumper, he's physical. It's another move that I love.
Yeah, I'm shocked Washington didn't bring him back.
Yeah, I am too. And look, I love the fact that these guys have come in here and they've made it a priority to keep their guys. Signing and retaining Adam Butler was a terrific move, right? Going out there and getting a Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is a terrific change of pace back. If he's your featured running back at this point in his career, that might not be the best role for him. But for the Raiders, being, we had the second worst rushing attack in the league last year. Having a guy like Raheem Mostert to come in to be your change of pace guy is a terrific move. And not for nothing, some of the guys that were already here, these are moves that they don't register, right? But mending fences and getting Michael Mayer back into the fold is a tremendous get for the Raiders. A lot of people thought Michael Mayer would be trade bait. I beg to differ.
I was hoping for the Dolphins, actually.
Yeah,
we got Darren Waller and his music videos.
Hey, listen, you got Waller the baller, man. You got Waller the baller. Listen,
Waller the baller maybe like 5-7 years ago.
Hey, man, listen, just don't listen. Let's just hope he doesn't keep getting turf toe and making videos, right? but at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, the Raiders have come in here and they fine-tuned this team, and I love the fact that Pete Carroll is bringing in guys that are just physical guys. Just physical, man. And today also, and I want to get into this, the Raiders actually today, they signed Jamal Adams. Right?
Oh, so wow. I didn't even know he was still around the league.
Yeah, Jamal Adams was signed. JT Woods was signed. Antonio Mafi and Philip Dorsett was signed today. Oh, so, okay. Pete Carroll is bringing in some of his guys, man. And I love that.
Man, that's nice. Now, speaking of Pete Carroll's guys, didn't mention probably the biggest addition to the squad being Geno Smith.
I mean, we're talking from a defensive perspective, man. You gotta let me cook a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you gotta let me cook. we talk about the defense. You know me, I'm a former linebacker. We gotta talk defense first. Now, the biggest thing, and the thing that everybody, and that's the low-hanging fruit. Listen, I'm here to give you information, not affirmation, right? The Geno Smith move was, to me, one of the best moves the Raiders could have made, right? Because now you have a guy that is still in the prime of his career. You have a guy that, kind of has learned from, his time with the Jets. I remember, living in the tri-state area, I remember Geno Smith, didn't really get a fair shake from the media in New York, the toughest media market in this country. He didn't get a fair shake from a lot of his teammates. I mean, he got his jaw broken by Ike and Pallet when he was with the Jets, right? So I don't know if you remember that, but Geno Smith, he got his jaw broken from one of his teammates. And the fact that his other teammates allowed that to happen spoke volumes to me, right? So Geno Smith has matured and he's become, to me, I think he's a top 10 guy in this league, man. So now the Raiders have definitely located a quarterback. And what it does is it extends the timeline from a draft perspective, because we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater to draft a quarterback. You can kind of build up this roster, outfit this roster with a ton of talent, and then put yourself in a position where you can throw all your chips on the table and trade your foreseeable future away to go get a stud quarterback if you so see fit. And Geno is the kind of player, man, where I think he's right at the precipice of having one of those kind of years where he's in a conversation for being one of the better guys in this league if the Raiders can protect him and outfit him with the proper weaponry around him.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how good Geno Smith has been the last few years. Because you said, hey, could be a top 10 quarterback here, and some people might hear that scoff, and it's like, no, Geno's been hella good. Like, I got some analytics here to kind of back that up.
Yeah. Why don't you warm it up, Broshmo? You got the analytics cooking.
Now, just in case you didn't know, he did not have a offensive line last year, but still on target. The throw from him, I think he was second in the league. Yeah, on target throws. Bad throw percentage was first. He when it comes to shooting deep, because hey, he can do that. He adjusted completion percentage of over 50%. I remember a couple of years ago when he had like a 56% downfield, and I was like, that's not sustainable. Guys just don't do that. And here he is. Oh, I hover around that 50%. That's hella good. And he's going to be coming to a Chip Kelly offense where, okay, sure, he could spread it around, but hey, I got some fast guys that could go downfield. I got stinking. We'll talk about the draft in a sec, but
yeah, yes. Oh yes, we got one of the ones down there. I mean, listen, Geno Smith, and this is some of the people that criticize the move. You have a lot of people in our fan base who,
really,
well, there are some people who are still holding on to previous players that were here that were very polarizing. You have some people who just have Raider PTSD, and they have every right. I've been a Raider fan over 40 years, right? And there's been a lot more bad going on with the Raiders than good, right? So at this point, you have a situation where you have some people who are they're just checked out and they just want to see wins. And until they see that, they're not going to be happy. And they have every right to feel like that. I don't criticize them. But guys, listen, help is on the way, because when you talk about Geno, because some people like to point to his turnovers in the red zone and through a lot of interceptions last year. A lot of those turnovers, I would say 4 to 5 of them, was him throwing, a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Right. So it's like that. I think a little bit much has been made of him throwing interceptions, but Geno Smith has been box office. He's been excellent. He's been accurate down the field, and he's been tough. He has been tough. He's been a guy that when you don't have a lot of protection from his offensive line, he's been able to move around and he's been able to be productive. And a pretty tough division out there in the NFC West with some really good defenses.
Yeah. I mean, his offensive line last year was basically Charles Cross, and that's it. No one else was performing well.
Abraham Lucas was hurt, right?
Yeah, he was still coming back from injury. So I don't think he played until the last half of the season. And even then, I mean, dude hadn't played football in over a year. So it's that type of transition. So yeah, no, Geno's been out here balling. I do have to bring up this pickup because I think I need you to give me some clarity here when it comes to the offensive line and what's it going to look like in terms of who's playing where. Because they bring in Alex Kappa coming off kind of a bad year with the Bengals, but I mean,
look, that's John Spytek, right? Alex Kappa, played for the Super Bowl Bengals, not Bengals, but the Super Bowl Tampa Bay Buccaneers, came from the Cincinnati Bengals. That was a bad group of offensive linemen. So, a lot of times offensive linemen are only as good as their teammates, right? You have some people who are just individually dominant, and you have other offensive linemen that need that help, right? So where they can construct and craft a good year. I think a lot of what happened with Alex Kappa was just the fact that the London Bridge was falling around him with that group out there in Cincinnati. And, this is a John Spytek move. He's a Spytek guy. Tampa Bay, those connections run deep. And I think that one or two things are going to happen. If you have a guy that beats Alex Kappa out, that means you got a young offensive lineman that is ready to really produce. And if none of these guys overtake them, you have, Dylan Parham's probably going to play the other guard spot. But then you have guys like Jordan Meredith, right? You have Thayer Munford, who has been converted to guard. And, I think that that's something that they should have done previously. Now, Thayer Munford played pretty well he had some pretty decent snaps at left tackle, being a backup left tackle for Cole. And he didn't play so great at right at times. But if you want to get into the Al Davis mode of guard, that is an Al Davis guy, a big, powerful guard.
Okay, so which spot is Parham going to be playing, left or right?
I think that what they're going to do is, because they've been moving Dylan Parham from college back and forth.
Yeah,
I think Parham is going to go back to right guard, from what I understand. I think Cap is going to be left. But, listen, you also have some of the rookies that they drafted that are going to really, really have a chance, like Caleb Rogers. Caleb Rogers is a guy, man, that I watched some of his tape. He was a tackle, in college, and I watched him pull from the right tackle. Man, that kid can move, man. Yeah. He's frightening. So putting him at guard is something that, listen, man, I think, and that's a spoiler alert, I think that's a kid, man, if he gets enough snaps, and this is a guy who played a lot of snaps in college too, was terrific in college. That's a guy that I can see taking one of those guard spots. Okay,
so we could go ahead and now kind of pivot into the draft and what they did there, because, well, shoot. It felt like it was everyone knew so much so that right when the last few days, like couple of days before the draft, people were talking themselves out of, oh yeah, Ashton Genty's not going at 6. Because like everyone and their mom was like, oh no, Genty's going to 6. He's going there. And we get up to draft.
For it to happen, right? It made too much sense for it to happen. It's the first time in a long time that we didn't go screw the pooch and overthink the pick. We took the guy who was there, the guy we should have took. There was no Raider surprise on draft day. There's no Cleve Farrell, or there was no Tyree Wilson, none of that kind of nonsense. We took our guy, and I was ecstatic. Man, I haven't been that happy in a long time on draft day, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, I haven't been that happy since we took Khalil Mack.
Man, yeah, no, Genty he's a stud, and I can't wait to see him in the NFL, and he's going to be running behind seemingly and I feel like I've said this quite a bit the last year, the Raiders offensive line, it's an ascendant offensive line.
Yes.
I know last year, they were figuring some things out, but you could tell by the end of the year, especially once you got Jackson Powers-Johnson there at center rather than guard, it was like, okay, no, this is going to be a step in the right direction. DJ Glaze, he had his ups and downs, but I mean, for a third rounder, it was like, oh, okay, you might have something in this right here. So yeah, I love that move. And it's not just Geno Smith now. It's like, oh, he can hand it off to this guy.
Yes. We have a real offense. And listen,
that's the thing. You have a real offense. I think that's why I'm so shocked.
See, listen, this is the thing, man. Not starting Jackson Powers-Johnson at center is probably a fireable offense to me. Like to put that guy at guard, right? Where he won all kind of awards with the Remington Award. The guy is he's to me as a center prospect. He's probably the second or third best one that I've seen in the last 15 years. Why would you even think to put him anywhere else but center? Why would you? They should have probably moved Andre James last year.
Yeah.
They probably could have got more for him. So to me, it's moves like that to bring us where we are now. That offensive line transformed when he was put at center. It transformed. It made everyone else play better. Because, listen, this was some of the things that and I don't want to disrespect Andre James. Andre James is a good football player. But I think that Jackson Powers-Johnson is elite. I think he's a future All-Pro. He stays healthy, and he keeps ascending in the direction he's going. So you got to look at it from this prism. A lot of the times, Andre James struggled with defensive tackles. He struggled with defensive tackles that were elite. He needed double teams and things of that nature, right? But a guy like JPJ can take on an elite guy and hold it down. He did a tremendous job. He did a tremendous job against Chris Jones last year. Tremendous. I mean, and this is a guy that's going to walk into the Hall of Fame, right? Chris Jones, it makes me throw up in my mouth to say it because he's a Chief, and I hate the Chiefs. But this is a tremendous – that guy is listen, Jackson Powers-Johnson, to me, man, I will always give Tom Telesco credit for bringing in Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers-Johnson in the same draft and bringing in a DJ Glaze. Because DJ Glaze is a starting level right tackle. I don't care what anybody says. DJ Glaze is going to have a hell of a year this year, man. He's going to have a hell of a year. So really, we got to address the guard spots, right? So we got to hope that Dylan Parham, who gets kind of tossed around a little bit, can have the benefit of having some better guys next to him. And also maybe he got a little stronger, a little better, because I like Dylan Parham. Technique-wise, Dylan Parham is a good lineman. I think he's just a little undersized. And Alex Kappa, if you can get the Alex Kappa of yesteryear, great. But if you can get somebody to take that spot like a Caleb Rogers or somebody like that and him be your backup, now you're cooking with gas and you have a tremendous amount of depth.
Yeah, shoot. Do you want to just like jump to Caleb Rogers real quick and talk about just because I think there's a chance he ends up, I don't know if he ends up starting right from the get-go, but I think just the sound of Alex Kappa being like, he wouldn't even necessarily be that sixth man, but depth, because like Meredith is your swing tackle, but that sounds very appealing to me. Because it
sounds appealing to me too, man.
Yeah, definitely. He's played a lot of football, like you said. So
listen, the thing for me is I think that's the metric. I think that's the thinking of this organization. And, and that's with no inside information on this particular subject, right? I think that, they didn't draft these guys, and that's the reason why they prioritized snaps and game film and reps over just straight up talent, right? Like a lot of times you have certain GMs and certain organizations who swing big on the currency of hope. And what Pete Carroll and John Spytek swung on is experience, snaps, game film, all the old school stuff that you should, right? I feel like Bill Parcells was drafted or something like that. So they did not draft these young guys to sit here and watch. They drafted these young guys to come in here and really participate. And that's always been kind of a staple of what Pete Carroll does. Pete Carroll's always done that. He started Sherm right out the bat. He started Tariq Woolen. Rick Woolen had a phenomenal, he probably had his best year in his league, all pro, led the league in interceptions as a rookie. So that has been a Pete Carroll staple. And yeah, man, I'm super excited, man, for that kid, man. I hope he proves me right. And guess what? If he doesn't, maybe by the middle of the season, he can kind of assert himself, get a little better, and slide in there. I mean, and listen, that's not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe Alex Kappa has a resurgence. Maybe playing next to Colton Miller and playing next to JPJ, he has a resurgence. Who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, again, sitting on the bench year one as a rookie, not the worst thing in the world. Sometimes it's more beneficial. And I mean, probably Charles Grant, the other offensive lineman who was taken actually right after. Yeah, Rodgers, who could be maybe the replacement for Miller in the future. That's kind of a unfair.
I think he's a guard. He's a guard.
Think he's a guard?
The Raiders are playing him at guard. I think Charles Grant would probably be the guy that would be that heir apparent or that replacement, or maybe that guy's not on this team. You know what I'm saying? I like Charles Grant. He's very physically talented. He really reminds me a lot of DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Out of Virginia, played for the New York Jets, was a staple for the New York Jets for a very, very long time. He has the same archetype and body, right? Played at, smaller school guys are guys that you gotta kind of, temper your expectations until you see them, right? But I like what I see from Charles Grant. And I think he was very, very highly rated. You had him very, very highly rated on your big board. Shout out to your big board. Got me through some really rough times this year. Hey, guys, if you're out there, make sure that you go and you get that big board from Broshmo, man. It is a master working of prospects.
I'm right now, ironically, going through the linebackers for next year's class. And
we got a treat. We got a treat coming up this year with linemen and linebackers this year. We got a treat, man.
Oh,
some quarterbacks too. Pretty decent quarterback draft as well.
Yeah. No, I still have to go through the secondary, but I'm going through linebackers right now, and I'm like, are we gonna see like 3 or 4 of these guys go top 50? Like there's some dogs.
Yeah, there's some dogs. And I'm telling you now, man, the National Football League, they say everything is cyclical. Things go in a cycle, right? If you've been around, you know everything. There's nothing new under the sun. There's always, things come back around. I think there's a resurgence of smash mouth football. This is the way that the Philadelphia Eagles won their Super Bowl. Howie Roseman does not try to get scientific with his free agent signings, with guys he brings in from college. He brings physically talented, strong, smash mouth guys. He always has a running game. He always builds from the inside out. And teams are starting to abandon that pass heavy, touchy feely douchebag football, so to speak. The Raiders are, and Pete Carroll, it's an old school guy. They're going to run the ball down your throat. They're going to hit you. They're going to impose their will on other teams, and they're going to dare you to do something about it. I mean, my God, I'm getting hyped up now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm getting hyped now, Broshmo. I mean, unbelievably hyped. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think last year it was like kind of the big, like, I feel like last about 2 years, it's like, okay, it looks like the pendulum's swinging the other way when it comes to the run game. And then last year was like, oh no, the run game's back in fashion. Watch out.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's football though, man. At the end of the day, you look at that Eagle Rams game in the snow. That was a Saquon Barkley special right there. That is a game that there's some teams in this league that are very good football teams where they wouldn't have any chance to win that football game because they don't have any. And listen, Saquon Barkley's a one-on-one. He is the most talented running back, of this generation. Damn, it's either him or and Derrick Henry's a freak of nature as well. Derrick Henry, I can't just wipe away what Derrick Henry's done over. He's been so consistent, right? But Saquon Barkley's the freak of nature. But what I'm saying is that the Eagles were outfitted to give it to you how you want it. If it's a messy, muddy game, we'll give it to you. Listen, we'll do ball control and, 3 yards in a cloud of dust and run the ball down your throat, right? If we need to throw the football down the field and sling that ball, hey, man, we got A.J. Brown. We got Devontae Smith. We can throw the ball down the field. We can give it to you how you need it. How you want it. You want us to beat you up or you want us to the counter punch and finesse you? That's the way you got to build a football team. A lot of these teams get so enamored with passing. They get so enamored with all of this, making it look pretty and having all these wide receivers. And then they get knocked out of the playoffs every damn year because they don't have a running game.
Dolphins, fins up, baby. Wild card, cold, gets cold, we're screwed.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, Mike McDaniels, man. I mean, it's unbelievable, man. I mean, I think that this might be his swan song this year if they don't get it together. But I know we're talking about the Raiders. So
Yeah. What I found in all of these videos that somehow it comes back to the Dolphins for me. That's what I relate to. It's what I know. I know pain.
No, listen, man, I get it, man. I mean, you guys have not won a playoff game this millennium.
Yeah, no, 25 years, man. It's been long.
Man.
But hey, y'all might. Let's speak about the rest of these draft picks because we kind of glossed over the second and your first third rounder. Let's talk about Besh, man. Because
Jack Besh is a monster, man. He's a yak monster.
He's a football player.
Yes, he is, man. He is the embodiment of everything that's right with football. Like, this is a guy who's overcome a lot. He lost his brother. Let me tell you something, man. In that terrorist attack down in New Orleans, and he's overcome. And this is a guy that was featured at LSU in the beginning of his college career with some pretty big names and was super, super productive, led the team in catches and I think yards, if I'm not mistaken. And he went down to TCU, kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, as far as from a media perspective, right? And went down there and absolutely cooked. Now, this is a guy that is really, if you talk about an NFL comp, as far as style of play, it's Jacoby Myers, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good thing because he's a Swiss Army knife of a receiver. You can line him up wide. You can line him up in the slot. He can block. He's physical. And, he is a guy that I think is going to play in this league a very, very long time. And I think that the Raiders got an absolute steal by drafting him in the second round.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. He's just a dog, man. He's just a dog. Goes up and gets it. Love it. Now, I am curious with the Darren Porter pick. How soon do we see him? Older prospect, but kind of had a position change halfway through his collegiate career.
Your former wide receiver.
Yeah, didn't really get to start until his final year there at Iowa State. But freak athlete. Like, he's long, he's fast, but when will we see him on the field? Because I would argue probably like the corner. You look at the cornerback room, and it's like, okay, it's kind of up for grabs. Who will be our starters on the outside at the very least? Yeah,
I think if you they say that past events predicts future outcomes. When you look at what Pete Carroll has always done, and I don't want to compare Darian Porter to Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman is a Hall of Famer, right? He'll be a Hall of Famer soon, right? But he started Sherman as a rookie. Sherman is also a guy that's in that same archetype, big, tall, rangy corner, 6'2", 6'3" guy, right? So is Darian Porter, and they're both former wide receivers.
I mean, you go back to Reek Woolen too. Started right out the gate.
And I was going to get there, and that's another guy that he started right out the gate. This is what Pete Carroll does. Byron Maxwell, all these guys, right? This is what he does. Pete Carroll is an aficionado when it comes to defensive backs. So, the Darian Porter move is, he's a sub 4'3" guy, a big guy, and he fits the archetype of Pete Carroll. When I saw him still available, I knew that they would take him. I just knew it, right? And I have a lot of faith in Pete being able to coach him up and put him in positions for him to be successful. If there's any criticism in a sense, is that, I would like for there to be some kind of veteran presence in that secondary, not just from a safety standpoint, but from a corner standpoint. I think we have a bunch of kids at the corner right now. You got Eric Stokes, the guy who's been injured. He's not a kid. He's been in the league a few years, but he hasn't really played a whole lot. Jacorian Bennett's another young guy that's out there that's trying to make it. But when you start talking about a Darian Porter, I think just from a physical standpoint, he's the bull of the woods. He's probably going to start.
Okay.
And that's sight unseen. That's without me seeing any. But I've been hearing some big things about what he's been doing. He's one of the two guys that I've heard tremendous things about coming out of OTAs and, the rookie mini camp and stuff. He's a guy that I've consistently heard has flashed.
Okay, that's good to hear. So y'all actually had quite a bit of day 3 picks as well.
Yeah.
I can imagine I know which one's your favorite, but tell me which one's your favorite?
I mean, for God's sakes, Dante Thornton. Dante Thornton Jr. I mean, that guy is a one-to-one kind of talent, man. And the thing is, a lot of people, and Broshmo, we talked about Dante Thornton Jr. before the draft. We did, right? I told you how much I was ecstatic when we got him. And this is a guy that, from a physical standpoint, when you start talking about speed, height, weight, speed, which has always been a Raiders staple, this is a guy that, when you talk about people who compare to him as far as from a stature standpoint, you're talking Megatron and Randy Moss. This is what we're talking about. Listen, am I expect him to be that? No. At Tennessee, when you go back to his years at Tennessee runs a very, very pedestrian offense. They have a ton of talent down there. And for whatever reason, they are never able to kind of strike when the iron's out and turn that corner. Like having guys like Joe Milton and guys that are just coming to the National Football League and blowing people's doors off from a physical standpoint. When you want to really look at what Dante Thornton can do, you got to go back to his years at Oregon. People were trying to say that he didn't really run the route tree, doesn't know, he's just a 9-route guy, height, weight, speed guy, jump ball receiver. He's a lot more than that. And I think this is a guy that is going to blow the doors off the National Football League. I really, really do. Shout out to Dante Thornton too, man. He pull up on my guy Grab's channel. He's gonna be pulling up on my channel. Shout out to Dante Thornton, man.
Nice. And I mean, with that offense at Tennessee, not really asked to run a full route tree. It's a lot.
Not at all. It's a very pedestrian offense. Yeah, they're playing speak and spell football over there.
Yeah, a lot of spacing and just kind of like trying to create light boxes and crap. So, kind of is what it is. But any others stick out to you in particular? Any that you liked?
I mean, you know what? I mean, JJ Pegues and Tonka Hemingway are two guys, man. Like Tonka Hemingway's another guy, Spy Tech Red Circle that played a lot of snaps. Super productive too. Tonka Hemingway was super, super productive. And JJ Pegues, man, I'm very intrigued in if the Raiders are going to do some of the things that they did with him at Ole Miss, with him on the goal line. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine? Can you imagine a backfield with him at fullback and, Ashton Genty at fullback? I mean, at running back, or possibly maybe Pegues and one of those we got one of those foreign players that were brought in as a developmental guy, a guy named Laki Tassi, former rugby player, big physical athlete, big, damn near 300-pounder, big 280, 90-pound guy. You imagine you take those two big guys and put them in the backfield? Who's stopping that, man? Who is stopping that, man? Listen, man, I'm excited for to see what we can do with Pegues. If we're going to use him on the offensive side of the ball. But Tonka Hemingway is really the guy that is going to get a chance to shine, because when you start talking about Christian Wilkins not being there, him being an all-pro and being a great player like that, it's going to take a few players to kind of fulfill that void, right? Now, Adam Butler's entrenched where he's at, but then when you start talking about who's going to be the other tackle in certain formations, you might see a little Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson is a guy that, is at that year where he's either got to, crap or get off the pot, right? The Raiders are going to decide after this year whether they're going to be in a Tyree Wilson business, right? If he makes it out of camp, if they don't have a trade or anything for him, if Tyree Wilson revs up, this is the year. He kind of had a redshirt year, his first year, came into the league with an injury, didn't have a full offseason either year. This is his first offseason that's full. I think they're going to use him in like NASCAR packages, things like that. Have him line up as a defensive tackle because, this is a guy that is physically imposing. Yeah. He's a beast. And he's a guy who has a terrific bull rush. big rangy guy. He's a guy that, might not get the opportunities to rush the passer from the outside. But listen, like I say all the time, you guys hear me say this on my show all the time. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And if Tyree Wilson can get down there with his hand in the ground from the defensive tackle position and create havoc with Max, with Malcolm Kuntz, man, that is nothing but right.
Well, shoot. Hey, man. I mean, y'all also had a couple of late day 3 guys. Wanted to at least give them a little mention. Tommy Millott, former quarterback, going to be playing.
Yeah, man.
Then you got Cam Miller, who they faced each other in the FCS championship game, which is kind of funny.
Which is ironic, right?
Right.
Tommy Millott is the guy that they compare to Julian Edelman. And I think Brady saw that in him, and might be a Brady guy. He might be a Spy Tech guy. Brady and Spy Tech have that Michigan kind of commonality. That's probably why John Spy Tech is here, right? And Tommy Millott is a guy that, at this point, I think if he makes his team as a kick returner. Because you got guys like, Trey Tucker that's here, that's been waiting. I think Trey Tucker's a guy that's been waiting for somebody to get him the football down the field. I think he's going to cook with Geno Smith, right? You got Brock Bowers, who is an athlete. Say he's a tight end, he's the best tight end in the league. But Brock Bowers is not just going to be a tight end. You're going to have times where Brock Bowers lines up in the slot. You have times where you're going to line him up at wide. He is that good. He's that talented, right? So I look at him as just an athlete, right? I'm going back to the old school NCAA college football days. Remember, you do the recruiting, you had an athlete, you can make him whatever you want. That's how I view Brock Bowers, right? So I don't necessarily know if Tommy Millott makes this roster without being a great special teamer, right? So I think that's where he sits. And then Cam Miller, listen, he'll be our emergency quarterback. I think he's going to get stashed away in the practice squad. You can't carry 3 quarterbacks, right? Aiden O'Connell is still our backup. He's a high-end backup to me in this league. He's a guy who's won games. He's a guy that that if you do have a situation where your quarterback's down a game or 2, 3, maybe he can win you one of them. Aiden O'Connell is a serviceable quarterback. He's not gonna win you a Super Bowl, but he's a more than serviceable backup. So, that quarterback room is going to look like Geno Smith and Aiden O'Connell. I think Cam Miller will probably be in the practice squad, but he's a guy that Tom Brady, red circle, and Tom Brady likes, from what I understand. And, hopefully they can develop the kid. I mean, he has a lot of promise. I like him. You know what I'm saying? Down at the Shrine Bowl, he played the Shrine Bowl. He played the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. I think he played the Shrine Bowl.
It was the Shrine, yeah.
Yeah, at the Shrine, he had some ups and downs, right? But you know how it is throwing to receivers you don't have that commonality with. But I watched a lot of tape on Cam Miller. I like Cam Miller, and I think he's a guy that if the Raiders can keep him stashed away, they might have something in a year or 2 with him.
Yeah. On a side note, Senior Bowl this year no longer sponsored by Reese's. It's Panini. So,
wow, the Panini, bro. I mean, what is going on here with these sponsor names, man?
Bro,
like these bowl games, man. I mean, what are we gonna have pretty soon? We have the Preparation H Bowl. So what is going on here? We need to get back to old school bowls, the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. What is all this crap?
I ain't gonna lie, the Pop-Tart Bowl though, I'm kind of cool with.
Pop-Tart Bowl is kind of dope.
Yeah, the Mayo Bowl, I think they do. Those are the 2 bowls I was like, hey, listen.
Dude, listen, man.
Keep those.
Listen, I'm just hoping we don't have like the I don't know, man. I didn't want to say. Listen, this is a family show. I don't want to say anything dirty, but I was about to say something terrible. So let me keep that to myself, man.
Quick shout out to Cody Lindenberg. He ended up being the final pick there for the Raiders. Sticks to the squad if he's a special teamer. But yeah, a guy that again plays that smash mouth football. But let's talk about this roster. Some of the strengths, some of the weaknesses when it comes to the offense. We talked a lot about this offense, a lot of the strengths. Like that running game should be scary. Geno Smith's bringing a lot to it. We kind of talked about the offensive line and kind of who fits into where, but the receiving core. Yes, I need to know outside of Jacoby Myers, like how does the pecking order, how will that fall out? And how much will Michael Mayer play into this too? Because, I mean, they're probably going to run a lot of 12 personnel.
Yeah, and Chip has already said he's
personnel.
going to run a lot of 12. He's going to run a lot of 12 personnel. I think the starting wide receiver core is Jacoby Myers, Jack Besh, Dante Thornton, and I think that in today's NFL, the roles get blurred sometimes. It's not necessarily whether you're a starter, but how many snaps you play.
Yeah.
Snaps are really big in the National Football League. They're starting to do a lot of advanced analytics. And I think a guy like Trey Tucker, who's been around, may have a leg up on one of those two young guys. But I think just from and I know you got two rookies, right? But when you start talking about Dante Thornton Jr., right, and this is just me, if I'm looking back at this roster, he is a guy who is a unique player just by his measurables. So he's that deep threat guy, that guy that you can throw the ball up to, those 50-50 balls. He's a guy you want on the field as much as possible, right? I think Jack Besh is that guy that's going to do all the stuff you need underneath. You're going to be able to line him up. He's very, very versatile, right? And I don't know if Trey Tucker's as versatile in that way. And when you talk about Jacoby Myers, he's also that guy that, can line up anywhere, and you can put him wherever you need to. But he's exhibited after Devontae Adams was let go last season that he was, a guy that's not getting paid number one receiver money, but definitely gave you number one receiver production. 100%. This is a guy who didn't drop a pass last year, right? So Jacoby Myers is going to come in here in a contract year and absolutely cook. And I think what the Raiders are going to do is they're going to develop this roster so that they can allow Jacoby to seek greener pastures, right? Because look, and do I want to see him get signed? Yeah, but I think that John Spytek and Pete Carroll love the picks that they picked, and they're going to pour into the guys that they drafted.
Yeah. Do you want to give a shout out to Zachary Franklin on this squad?
Yeah.
He was a guy that I liked back at UTSA, and then he goes to Ole Miss.
I did too. I was going to name him, but bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, he just got cut today.
Yeah, did he?
So happy trails, Jakari Franklin. Happy trails, Jalen Walker. Happy trails, Mello Dotson. I'm surprised.
Oh, really? That's I'm actually shocked by that one.
Yeah, I'm shocked too. I thought Mello Dotson had a chance to push for a roster spot and possibly some snaps, but they had to make room for some of the moves that they made today. Like I told you, Jamal Adams and Philip Dorsett, all these guys were brought in. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, should have refreshed the R lads. I got it. Got it now, refreshed. But shucks, man. I'm confident.
That's gonna be a steal for somebody, bro. I think Zachary, bro. I think the Raiders are making a mistake. I'm just going off of what he did in college. So let me not be the couch GM here, right? Just from a measurable standpoint, and you know how we are, right? We sit up here, we watch these guys, and we fall in love with the measurables until we see them in the construct of an NFL offense. There's a lot of things that go in. There's a lot of nuance to why players get kept and why they don't, right? Because we don't know what his study habits are like. We don't know how mature he's been, how respectful he was. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, right? But he was a guy that I wanted to see them keep, because I would have loved to see him and Dante Thornton be together, because they were just both big, fast guys, man.
Yeah, I'm sure those guys will be on practice squads somewhere by the start of the season, so I'm not too worried about that. Running back room, he gave a lot of love to Ashton Genty. He deserves it. He deserves the flowers. He's a phenomenal back. Raheem Mostert, Dolphins great, by the way. Going to be a good change of pace there, but Sincere McCormick, man, went on the field.
Yeah. Sincere McCormick is a beast. Shout out to Sincere McCormick. I had a conversation with him last week. He was supposed to come on the show last week, and it didn't work out, but we're gonna get him on. Sincere McCormick is a guy that is everything about what you want from a player. This is a guy that has worked his way into everything that he's ever gotten. Nobody's giving him a damn thing. Practice squad guy, you know what I mean? College, broke every record at his former school.
UTSA.
San Antonio, UTSA. He broke every meaningful record there. He is a guy who is the first college graduate of his family. He comes from nothing, bro. And this is a guy that worked his way from nothing. And I think this is a gentleman, man, that is going to absolutely be a threat to be running back too. I really do. Sincere McCormick is a guy that is a threat to be running back too. Mark it down.
Oh, I don't doubt it, man. Raheem Mostert's kind of in a weird situation where didn't really have a lot of utilization early in his career. It wasn't until he got around 30 where, he really started to produce. I mean, going back to the Niners and McDaniels, and I mean, the Niners, they were best known for taking these journeymen and getting like RB1 production out of them, and he ended up being one of those guys. But yeah, offensively, it definitely feels like this squad you're going to see a big role reversal, that they're going to be in that top half of the league, that they're going to be scoring significantly more. They're going to be winning significantly more.
I mean, it's deductive reasoning, right? Like 1 + 1 = 2, right? You get a much better quarterback, and you get a much better running game, and you improve the offensive line, and you get better results. You're gonna have those 3rd and 3s, those 2nd and 7s, where Genty might just rip one off for 25 yards. That puts you in a better position 100 times out of 100. You're not going to be in these short yardage situations where you just know you don't have a shot. When you have a situation where your running game is second to last in the league, that speaks volumes to why this offense was so putrid. I mean, listen, the Raiders last year, man, I mean, when you start talking about point differential and things like that, it was ugly, man. It was ugly, man. They scored 18 points per game, man. The 18.2 points a game. The offenses against them was 75.5. I mean, 79.8, 32nd in the National Football League. I'm wrong. We were the worst rushing team, right? And it was just bad, man. And you have a situation where now you don't have a situation where when you march out there, for the week, that you in the back of your mind you don't have a shot. You know what I mean? It feels great, man, for the Raiders to just have a damn shot, man. And that from a coaching perspective, the head coach is never going to be out-coached by somebody consistently. You knew with Antonio Pierce what you were dealing with. He was a great motivator, but there was a tremendous drop-off when it came to the X's and O's, man. And let me tell you something. They always say it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmys and Joes. But let me tell you something. It damn sure is 50% about the X's and O's a lot of times, because Andy Reid can take the same roster of talent that other people will probably lose 4 games with and get them into the playoffs. And that's just a fact.
Yeah. Yeah, and I told you about Luke Getsy last year, man. I told you.
Listen, you know me, I have my Raider blinders on, man. But this is the thing. Look, you gotta laugh to keep from crying. Sometimes, you gotta talk yourself into a bad situation. But let me tell you something. I have been delivered, Broshmo. I've had the demons of my bad choices last season exorcised out of me, man. Because you know why? I looked up to the heavens and I prayed for a coach. I said, you know what? Everybody wanted Ben Johnson. I said, no. I said, please, Lord, give me somebody that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt can coach. Because listen, Ben Johnson would have been the guy everybody wanted, but you don't necessarily know how well he's going to do as a head coach. But I know that Pete Carroll is a damn good head coach because he's been that from the college ranks to the NFL ranks, back, forth, up and down, baby.
Yeah, must be nice.
Hey, listen, you got Mike High Stakes McDonald, man. I mean, wasn't he in the Backstreet Boys as a roadie or something like that back in the day?
I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you this. Chris Greer is a big problem for us. Our GM's terrible at just team building.
Yeah, he is.
No depth.
One of the worst. He
sees stars and he's like, "Ooh, give me that. Here's all my draft capital." And then when we do hit on draft picks, we don't retain them, a la Christian Wilkins. So and it sucks. I think the only way he gets fired is if we clear the whole front office and the coaching staff. And
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If I gotta sacrifice Mike McDaniel to get Chris Greer out, I'm willing to do that.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, Chris Greer is essentially playing Madden with a real football team. He's playing Madden franchise mode, and he's bad at it. So listen, man, there has to be some collateral damage. It was like with Coupon Tom. I didn't have a problem with Tom Telesco, but if it means that I get Pete Carroll and John Spytek, who was probably the pick of all picks when you start talking about guys who are going to get a GM job, right? that to me was a win-win, right? So if we lost Coupon Tom, cool. But now we are in the right direction. Listen, Broshmo, listen to me, man. Have faith. Things can turn around in 1 year, man. The owner can say, I'm sick of this losing crap. I'm sick of going out there and swindling the people who pay for season tickets just because they fill a stadium up anyway. And I really want to win. One day he might have that stroke of genius, Broshmo, and it can happen for you too, man. Have the faith. I'll be praying for you.
Yeah. You're not selling me on that hopium. So gonna get back.
No, man, I'm not at all. And guess what? You guys are in the same conference as me, and I hope you die a miserable death of games this year.
There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. So we talked a little bit about it earlier, but like Jermaine Pratt, I think was kind of a huge pickup. Like him being released late, because the linebacker core, like Eldon Roberts, another former Dolphins great.
Landon Roberts, man, the thumper.
Dude, the thumper. But it's like, again, with Devin White, this dude has all the tools, but you're still kind of like sitting and waiting for some consistency from him. And behind him is like, well, didn't see much of Eichenberg. I don't know if Eichenberg was hurt last year.
Tommy Eichenberg. I mean, Robert Spillane was playing a lot,
that's true. Yeah.
And Patrick Graham was playing at cover 3, and he wasn't using, the full assortment of linebackers. He had a lot of DBs and stuff like that. Well, look, you're going to see, I think Tommy Eichenberg is a guy. You're going to see a heaping helping of Tommy Eichenberg. And there's another name that you want to look out for when you start talking about the linebackers is Amar Gaynor, man. Amar Gaynor is a very, very talented young linebacker, man. He's a guy who, when he was at the University of North Carolina, before he transferred, he played with his hand on the ground. Then he transferred to FSU and balled out. And listen, man, physical freak, big specimen, great. He has elite physical attributes. And I think he's one of those guys when he can make that connection with the physical and the mental. He's a guy that the Raiders are going to really be judged favorably upon, because listen, we cleaned house when it came to the linebackers last year. Spill is gone. He's with the Patriots. Divine Diablo is with the Atlanta Falcons, and he is going to be chasing somebody down from behind all year down there. Salute to Divine Diablo. He is like the I call him the El Matador. He did that Olay tackling. The runner would shoot the gap, and he let him go past. He go Olay, and he'd catch him from behind because he didn't want to meet him in the hole and knock him out. Lucas Disasterson, he is gone. There are so many things to be thankful for if you are a Raider fan from a linebacker perspective, man, because they have an assortment of guys that are going to really, really get it done.
Yeah, it's definitely a tone flip. Again, I need you to clear up this cornerback room for me, because I'm hopping on our lads. I know who you got. I just want to know where they're at. Slot, they have Darnay Holmes.
So as of right now, I think that's fluid. That's subjective. We got to get to. I think that's fluid. I don't. Right now he's the guy you're going to pencil in. I think it's going to be. I would hope it would be. Jacorian Bennett and Darian Porter.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it's probably going to be Eric Stokes, because he is a Pete Carroll guy. He's a guy that he went out there and he signed. So it's probably going to be Eric Stokes. And between Jacorian Bennett and Darian Porter, and it'll probably be Darian Porter, because Pete Carroll never shies away from starting rookies.
Yeah, you think Richardson maybe makes a push to get a little bit more time, whether it be inside or outside?
I like DCam. He seems to fit the archetype. He had a rough year last year, but it was a baptism by fire. Yeah. I think he makes a push to get snaps. I do. And he's a guy that I can see maybe possibly, even though we have a log jam with safeties, I can see him being a guy that gets pushed to safety too. He's a big physical kid. I can see him playing safety.
Yeah. Should be a really fun year for the Raiders. So let's take a look at the schedule, man. Let's take a look at the schedule and come up with the ceiling or floor on this squad when it comes to the win total. You start out the year with Drake May and the new Vrabel look Patriots. And then right from there, man, you go into divisional game with the Chargers. You're going to get Jaden Daniels in week 3. And I was just going over the general schedule, and it outside of probably the division games. Cause again, y'all are probably up there with the NFC North as one of the most difficult divisions. This is just a division filled with really good teams. I mean, I really don't see too many like difficult games. Maybe you look later in the year at Houston, at Philly.
I see a lot of difficult games. I beg to differ.
You do? Okay.
I think Washington's a difficult game.
I do think Washington will be difficult.
The Raiders historically have been the worst team in the league traveling east in 1 o'clock games. So anytime the Raiders come east and in those 1 o'clock games, these are games that you have to be mindful of. And the reason why I don't have that kind of worry about them coming east and playing New England is the fact that they're probably going to stay here as the first game of the season.
Yeah.
It'll be easier for them to adjust. But when you start getting into the throes of the season, that Redskin game, Commanders game, I'm sorry, pardon self. The Commanders game is a game that I think could be a trapdoor for the Raiders. Really can.
Yeah, but I mean, shoot, even with that, I would say the schedule, I mean, you get to play the AFC South, so you get a Colts team that's in turmoil, a Tennessee team that just drafted their franchise quarterback. Yeah. So there's I think there's some manageable games there.
Oh, no, that's definitely the that's definitely where I'm looking at it. I think the Raiders, need to make sure that they win those meaningful games.
Yeah,
they need to win those meaningful games. They definitely do. But the thing is, man, when I start looking at the Raiders and I look at a team that has to start asserting themselves in this division. The Denver Broncos are not going to allow us to just beat them anymore. The Broncos have tooled up. We have to split with our division for us to make it to the playoffs. So to me, when you ask me what my floor is, my floor for the Raiders is 7-10. My ceiling is probably around 10 wins because Pete Carroll has always he's always been that guy that's won at least 10 games. He said that today in his presser today. So look, man, the Raiders are a team, man, that is an ascending team. And to me, I just want to see improved growth over this year, next year. And, I'm hoping that this year we can build off something, maybe sneak into the playoffs and really, really make a run the year after that. And listen, man, there's no time like the present, right? We got a lot of talent here. You never know how things shape up. You never know other teams have injuries. If we can stay healthy and Geno Smith can turn that corner, maybe he can have kind of a Rich Gannon kind of arc.
Okay. I like that shout out to the past. But that's actually where I have them ceiling and floor. I have them at seven wins for their floor. And then I actually went 11 wins because I do think they could probably scrape out 3 of those 4 against the AFC South. And I do think we're going to see them split quite a bit inside their division. Because, y'all always played the Chiefs really well. Yeah. So I got a lot of faith in this team. But hey, thanks for coming on with me today.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for having me, Broshmo, man. It's always a pleasure. It's always a splendiferous occasion. Listen, Broshmo, you allowing me to be in front of your audience, man, is a pleasure, man. And guys, listen, if you like the Raiders, you don't like the Raiders, whatever, go on over there, Raider Nation Unlimited, hit that subscribe button, man. Come on, it's time, man.
I know you will during draft time.
Yeah, that's right, man. That is right, man. Well, Broshmo, thank you, my brother.
Easy breezy, but as always, till next time, you be easy, our friends. Later.